Hey guys, so most people know that you can use eyeshadows dry, of course, but a lot of people don't know that you can also use eyeshadows wet. So I'm going to go over some ways to apply eyeshadows wet. I'm going to start off with some basics, and then I'm going to show you some of the ways that I prefer to apply my eyeshadows wet. And first of all, I'm going to tell you not every eyeshadow can be used wet. Singles like this, it's always good to check the back to see if it says whether or not it can be used wet, or to check the website. A lot of times the website will post whether or not their eyeshadows can be used wet. You have to be careful, and you might want to test in a very small corner of an eyeshadow before you put your brush into the center of it or all over the top of it, because you can ruin eyeshadows by trying to use them wet. Now, every baked eyeshadow that I've ever owned, I've been able to use wet, and I'm pretty sure most of them can be used wet. Better than using any kind of a pressed shadow or single is using pigments, and I'm going to be showing you several pigments today. I've got a MAC pigment, some of the Ultra Pearl Mania pigments from NYX, as well as a Sugar Pill pigment, and then I have my NYX single right here in Jungle Fever. And I'm going to start off with this one. I've already applied some Stay Don't Stray to my hand, and that way it's going to help it stick a little bit. And first I'm going to show you what this looks like dry. Okay, so you can see it right there. That's what it looks like dry. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like wet. And before I do that, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. I buy these things right here from Hobby Lobby, and they're $1, and they're just little stackable containers, kind of like the stacked pigments, but it's square and they're a lot smaller. And what I do is I will put whatever fluid I'm going to use to make my eyeshadows wet in there, and then I'll use my brushes, and I'll either add pigment to it, or I'll dip my brush in it and then get some shadow on it and apply it. This makes it really, really easy, and I can, if I use shadow, I can keep it in there for next time. I mean, usually you have to damp it up just a little bit, but these are really, really nice for that. So, I have some clean filtered water in this little container right here, and I'm going to take this Natural Beauty eyeshadow brush, and note this brush, the shape of it. Now when this gets wet, it's not going to get flimsy and droop. It's going to stay pretty stiff. So I'm going to put just a little bit of water on that, and I'm going to get some of my eyeshadow. I'm going to apply this right below the other one. Okay, so that's what that looks like wet. And now I can definitely see the difference. I want to make sure you guys can. So that's the dry right there, and then that's the wet shadow. It is much more pigmented being wet, and it sticks much more. So next I'm going to use the Ultra Pearl Mania pigments from NYX, and I'm going to put, I've already got water in these, and I'm just going to add a little bit of pigment to it and use it that way. And I wanted to say another alternative to these things right here is these, which are literally like 70 cents at craft stores, and I cut them off like this and use them. So, but we're going to use these for right now. And I'm going to take this True Purple Pearl, and I'm going to add just a little bit to this container. And the brush that I'm going to use is a brush like this, which I use for lining a lot. And I'm just going to mix a little bit of water with the pigment. And I'm literally just mixing a little bit of it. I'm not using all the water, and I'm not using all the pigment. I just mix it up really good. And then I'm going to apply it right here. You can see that right there. Yeah, so it applies very smoothly. It's very pigmented. And then I'm going to show you what this looks like dry as well. Okay, so here's the two shadows. This one right here on the outside, this is dry, and then on the inside, that's wet. So even kind of a difference in the color. So wet really sometimes can be best. I tend to, instead of using them wet all over my lids, I tend to use them more as liners when they're wet, but you can use them all over your lids, and it works just as well, and as you can see, you get great results. All right, I'm going to show you the Orange Pearl. Well, it's Orange Zest Pearl pigment as well, just because I think that this is a great color, especially when wet. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of pigment to the container, and I'm going to mix it with water just a little bit. Now I want to make sure to add that you don't want to add too much water because the water is going to spread the pigment out too much and it's not going to apply the way that it should. It's going to apply very light. But there is the Orange Zest Pearl pigment, and that's when it's wet. So again, very pigmented, very easy to apply, and it stays really, really well. And I love that color wet. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple things that I have been using lately to apply my eyeshadows wet. Now this was something that I showed you guys in a haul video, and this is from Sephora. It's a eyeshadow transformer, and it looks like a liquid liner. And that's what it looks like. And basically what I do, now I used this with MAC Silver Fog pigment earlier. You can see that right there. And now this is wet, and there's like actually liquid almost dripping off of this right now. So what I did is I just put a little bit of pigment in here, and then I added this, and I just kind of moved it around a little bit like this. But yeah, so now I've got the Silver Fog on there, and I'm just going to do a swipe. And yeah, that's what that looks like. So I don't, this is a nice quick alternative to using water or my other product that I tend to use. And I don't think that it works as well, but it is fast and easy. And as long as you go over it a couple times, it works really well. Before I stick it back into the tube, I just wipe it off with the makeup wipe. And it goes right back in there. And it's ready to use for another color the next time. So yeah, so this is really easy. I've only used it a couple times, so I'm still not like 100% on how I feel about it. But so far I used it today on my lower lash line to put the Silver Fog on, and it worked really well. So I'm not disappointed in it. Okay, the next one, this is a Sugar Pill pigment, and this is in Darling. That's what that looks like right there. And what I did is I added just a little bit of the pigment. And what I used for this, which has been my favorite thing to use shadows wet, this is a new hard candy product, and it's Showgirl's Secret Glitter Glue. So this is technically supposed to be for glitter. There's like a little hole in the top right there. And you just add a little bit of it like this. And you just need to tap it a couple times until it comes out. So now I've got it in there, and it even comes with this cute little brush right here. So what you can do is you could stick the brush inside and then do this, and then you've also got the liquid on the brush. So what I did, and I lined the top of my eyes with this today, is you mix that in there, you mix it up real good, and now you have a nice wet shadow to apply. I'm going to show you what this looks like. That's a little watery right now, but that's what that looks like. I'm going to add just a little bit more pigment and show you guys the effect that I got. I've mixed a little bit more pigment in there, and I'm going to show you more of the effect that I got from this. There, that's it right there. So a lot darker when it's not as wet, and it doesn't spread or anything. And I really like this. I like this much better than using water or my Sephora eyeshadow transformer. The eyeshadow transformer seemed to smudge a little bit, and then using it wet sometimes, depending on what kind of product you use, if you haven't used it before or tested it, there's a good chance that it could like dry and flake off. So one is that you always want to use a primer like the Benefit Stay Don't Stray, or my favorite lately has been Lorac eyeshadow primer, which I believe it's behind the scenes eye primer. And this glue it didn't budge. So I really, really like it. And I like the effect that it gives. So those are the 3 ways that I apply my eyeshadows wet. Like I said, there are so many options when it comes to eyeshadows, and that's why I have so many of them, because you can apply them wet, and you can apply them dry, and you can use them as liners, you can mix them with all kinds of things. And these are just some of the ways that I do it, and I hope that it helped. And if you guys have any questions about anything, just let me know. Thanks, guys.